Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, brothers and sisters, and fellow journeymen, comrades even, welcome to Then and Now, the weekly show I do with Jim. George Jatras, author of I Try to Warn You, collection of fine writings and thinkings and articles that Jim has made over the years during his time in the belly of the beast. So go pick this one up for Christmas. It's a good stocking stuffer if you got a big giant stocking. And it's available on Amazon, Kindle, and all your fine booksellers. Links in the description below. Hello, Jim.
Howdy, Jason. How are you?
I am well, sir. You guys don't see the pre-show.
No. We get primed.
Well, I should tape the pre-show, just use it as blackmail for Jim. Folks, we're here.
Or brown mail,
maybe. Yeah, brown mail. We're here to discuss Trump's new national security strategy that just got released, and it's been making the rounds. And people are getting very, very upset. All the right people are quite upset. There's some consternation. Oops, hang on a second. Yeah, even the Pope's getting in on this. Have you seen this one? Have you seen this one, Jim? The Pope,
I did not see that one. You mentioned it. I did not see it. What did the Pope say?
Oh, hang on a second. Let me just show you this.
Come on, Dick.
You know what? This is just one more reason as I thank God every day that I'm not a Roman Catholic. Here we go. Here's the Pope, and he was asked about Trump's new national security strategy. Odd thing to ask the pontiff, I would think, but hey. When in Rome.
I haven't read the whole thing. I think, unfortunately, some of parts of it that I have seen make a huge change in what was for many, many years a true alliance between Europe and the United States. The remarks that are made about Europe, also in interviews recently, I think are trying to break apart what I think needs to be a very important alliance today and in the future. So it's a program that President Trump and his advisors put together, and he's the President of the United States, has a right to do that. It has a number of things in it that I think, while perhaps many people in the United States would be in agreement, I think many others would see things in a different way.
Well, considering that you're American, Jim, and you have your own thoughts and feelings about this national security structure,
right.
Strategy story, we'll get into that. But here we go. Even the Pope's getting in on recent announcements from Europe saying that America's not their friends no more, and other reports out of Trump statements saying that Europe is weak. And I liked one part from the PDF you sent me of the strategy. Where it said that one of the things that America wants to do is restoring Europe's civilizational self-confidence and Western identity. I actually cheered that. I was like, yeah, that's a good one. I like that. So, anyways, interesting times, interesting things. And of course, you mentioned before we press play here that our favorite little Ukrainian, Zelensky, is going to hold elections within 60 days, he says. Go figure.
Well, you remember the old Saturday Night Live for the hard of hearing? In tonight's news, the news today is that Zelensky says he will hold elections within 60 days. Apparently, this is a result of pressure that Trump is putting on him to sign this peace deal, which he says, oh, the Russians love it, and Zelensky's advisors love it, and he hasn't read it yet. Again, I stand where I've been for the last year, that the only thing that the Americans can propose to the Russians is another Minsk agreement. That's essentially what's on the table with the 28 points or 19 points, whatever it is. Does Zelensky agreeing to hold elections actually happen to start with? He says he has to go to the Rada and get legislation changed to have elections during martial law. Meanwhile, I think, as you were pointing out before the show, there may not be much of a Rada to go to, since everybody's getting out of Dodge as fast as their little legs can carry them. So, let's just say this is another part of the continuing saga of a peace agreement that has nowhere to go and lets the Russians wake up and take the stupid pills in the morning, which at this point, I don't think they will, unless they've really been lulled into a sense that this national security strategy really fundamentally changes American policy toward Russia and toward the world, which it doesn't, and we'll get into those details. Note at the start, though, grabbing the papal bull by the horns, is that you got that one? See what I did there? Is that the Pope need not be so concerned. We are not walking away from Europe by any means. And anybody who reads this as our walking away from Europe is simply not reading it. I mean, in a nutshell, this this document, which has a lot of really great mega rhetoric at the beginning part of it, supposedly drafted by Elbridge Colby. But then when you get to the nuts and bolts of the regional stuff, a lot of people are reading stuff into it that just isn't there. Like, for example, some of the commentators saying, well, he shows he wants to reach an accommodation with Russia. Read the section on Europe and Russia. It doesn't say that. What it says, it wants to restore stability between Europe and Russia. He wants Europe to stop the elites, the von der Leyens and the Starmers and the rest of them, war against European civilization, culture, open migration, all this kind of stuff, and make Europe a fundamental force again. But it doesn't say that will not be a substantial force and not be under American hegemony as it has been. And he's also, again, redoubling on 5% spending for NATO by these countries against what threat? Defense against whom? There's only one place. It's still against Russia. So how does this fundamentally change anything?
Yeah, well, look, let's try to come at it from different directions and see what we can pull apart here, because I think formally something's being presented here which plays into a lot of the narratives we've been already discussing, right? There's a hot potato with the economy that they're going to have to deal with on one way, shape, or form. Right? And they're dealing with it through Bitcoin and through gold markets, but that's just a mathematical certainty. Whether it happens this month, next year, whatever time it happens, they got to do something about the bond market. They got to do something with the post-Marshall Plan system, because it's just not working anymore, right? So there's that thing hanging over them. At the same time, we're also seeing the Plan A, we'll just call it that, group has been disastrous, right? DEI, mass globalization, and the way that it was doing it, creating shallow markets that they were trying to expunge from, creating essentially slave states across the globe that eventually those same states like China, India, and a few other emerging markets are finally getting fed up and sort of shaking the fleas off, going, we're not doing this anymore, right? Because we can't, because it's destroying our own civilization. So screw that. The attack against Russia didn't work. That was supposed to be, I think, was going to be the big linchpin. Right. That screwed up. So now the whole European plan, which I do believe it came. I'm not saying that America didn't have its. Obviously, America was a major part of that, but I would say that the City of London plan, whatever group you want to call it, that plan has now hit a brick wall and is being reformatted in real time. And I think this national strategy, this recent declaration, especially the reaction to it, the reaction is the thing that I'm interested in, because I think everything's produced, everything's negotiable, everything blah 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 blah, right? But the right people are freaking out, and I think the freak out's legit. Yeah, I think when you take like someone like Callas, who's now being thrown under the bus by Europeans, like Brussels, the Bank of Brussels is going, no, we're not doing this. Like you're starting to see splinters and breakaways in that power formation that, okay, well, now something's happening. It's like we don't know how seismic it is, but obviously people are starting to scatter. And now the Zelensky thing, I mean, it's over.
Yeah. I mean, obviously things in Kiev and things on the front are crumbling. No question about it. The freakouts are genuine, and so are the high-fiving that's going on in a lot of quarters. And they're both high-fiving and freaking out over the same misreading of the document.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned. In other words, people are reading this document to say, all right, America's going to return to a normal world of sovereignty, spheres of influence with other countries, making deals, giving up the quest for global hegemony, et cetera, et cetera. That's not in the document. It's not in the document. It's rhetorically there. You might say there's incantations to that direction in the beginning of the document, but the hard policy recommendations on a regional level simply do not say that. But what people are going with is the reading of the first part. Oh, this is America going, abandoning global hegemony and taking a spheres of influence policy. Well, the people who support that policy are freaking out because they want to change that. And then you have other people who would like to have a world that was de-ideologized, de-hegemonized, et cetera, and say, hey, yeah, this is great. Glad we're moving in that direction. Well, they're both based on the same misreading as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, I think also everyone's timelines are screwed up too, right? We've moved into zero time preference. People talk about high and lows. This is zero now. And you see this, I'm relatively neutral about Trump because I don't live there, right? So the domestic policy I think is generally good from what I can read on it. I don't live there, so I don't know. The international policy, we've been open critics of it because it's been bad, or questionable at least. We don't know what the win condition is, so we're left guessing and going, well, it's not leading towards any understandable win here on any side. So right D-. The when it comes to sort of global positioning, though, we can get to the hub report that you sent me, and this is sort of Canada's response, because everyone's talking about the Monroe Doctrine now again, right? This is like the Trump's version of the Monroe Doctrine that was re-strategized in the night. So the Monroe Doctrines from what 18. Looking for my notes. 18 years somewhere around there. 1840 or something like that. Then it gets restated again by in the early 20th century, and then now this is Trump's sort of like new rebuttal on this thing, right? And when we talk about the Monroe Doctrine, now we're talking about spheres of influence and who controls which hemisphere.
Yes and no.
Right.
They aren't necessarily. I mean, look. I mean, again, a lot of people misread the Monroe Doctrine and say, "Oh, this means America rushing roughshod over everybody in the hemisphere. Oh my God, it's horrible." It's nothing of the sort. All the Monroe Doctrine said was that the Americas, because remember, up till our independence and the next trivia question: who is the next country in the hemisphere to win independence after the United States?
Mexico?
Nope.
Venezuela?
No.
Cuba?
No. That was in the 20th century. Good. Nope. Canada, you weren't even a confederation until 1867. I know.
Dominion.
The Dominion of Canada. No. And by the way, another little trivium here. When I got to the State Department in the 1970s, Canada wasn't even in the Western Hemisphere as far as we were concerned. It was part of the European Bureau. It only got moved to
it's funny,
the American Bureau later on. I know. Haiti, actually. Haiti was the country.
Oh, right.
I just hate it when that happens. So anyway, people have this understanding that the Monroe Doctrine means we go around kicking everybody around the hemisphere. It doesn't mean that. What we were saying is because up until that time, the Western Hemisphere, with the exception of the United States, later of Haiti, was all colonial territory of one sort or another, claimed by various European powers. And the Americans were saying the Americas are no longer open for colonialization. The colonies that exist, we will not interfere with, but we will not accept any new colonial establishments in the Western Hemisphere. That was all it was. And now, in a sense, it was a sphere of influence in the sense that it was an exclusion. that we're saying to other powers, notably the European empires, you stay out, although we're still going to grandfather in the areas that you have and won't interfere with them. What was implicit in that was that we had no claims, not only in the rest of the hemisphere, but in anywhere else in the world. And that's what's really missing when people look at this thing and say, oh, spheres of influence. The key to a sphere of influence is that other powers are excluded from your sphere, but you also recognize that the other power has spheres that you're going to stay out of. And it's kind of a quid pro quo. And look, I've been in favor of this all along. Back in the first Trump term, I said, what we need is a big three meeting. Trump, Xi, and Putin sit down, say, this is our area, this is your area, this is your area. We all agree on that. I will stay out of you guys' hair, you stay out of my hair. And that would make perfect sense. But what that does is it implies that it's reciprocal. Now, people have noted in this document, you have this doubling down on American presence in the hemisphere, not only to say everybody stays out, but we get to beat up on anybody we like, including Venezuela. What we don't see is anything where we accord to other powers, notably the Russians and the Chinese, this is yours. We don't interfere inside that line wherever it is. Case in point, when you read the part about China, it specifically talks about the South China Sea, the first island chain, and makes it clear that we will remain the dominant power in those areas, even though that's right on China's shores, and that we're still going to be the dominant power there. It also specifically says, and this is pure Wolfowitz doctrine, that we will maintain our opposition to any power or combination of powers that is large enough to threaten our interests, or including regional powers. So we're even saying as a regional power, the Russians and the Chinese don't have their own spheres of influence. So how is that a sphere of influence policy? It's not. So Mr. The fellow in white in Rome can panic over this. I think what he's really panicking about is not that we're walking away from Europe, but we would actually like some decent patriotic, oh my God, maybe Christian countries and governments in Europe that will keep all these migrants out from Africa and the Middle East. That's the thing he's objecting to.
Well, that, and also it might be the end of the gay state of America, the real gay. I was just listening to Jay Dyer was hosting a space, and a really interesting stat came out about the Vatican. I think this is coming out of news. It was a news article. I don't want to misquote it. Maybe it was, but a relatively large paper. Maybe, I'm just going to say the Guardian, but it may have been someone different, right? That came out a report saying that apparently 4 out of 5 priests who are stationed at the Vatican, who work or live in the Vatican area, are homosexual.
Well,
that's an astounding number. We're talking like 80% of 80 to 90% of everyone.
There's a reason that E. Michael Jones calls it the Vatican a gay disco,
Right. But just one big giant it's the baptism bathhouse. We're just getting baptized every night. It's
raining men.
It's raining something. Grace. It's Grace. We just love Grace. She's wonderful. She sings every night.
Look, to be fair, a lot of these old queens are old, and there's hope, at least in some of the conservative Roman Catholic circles, that some of the younger men attracted to the priesthood are better than these guys. And when these guys die out, maybe a better generation comes into power. I don't know if that's true. There's some hope of that along those lines. Maybe there's some evidence to support it. I'm not necessarily convinced, but that's what the hope is.
Right. I only bring it up because I think all these things are connected. When I was reading the PDF, I've just put a link in the description of the video, folks, if you wanted to, so you can click on it and get the full PDF. We're not going to read the whole thing out just because it's like 30 odd pages. Most of it's pretty easy read, though. It's a very bulletin point kind of presentation. So you don't need to know. You don't have to be that deep into geopolitics to kind of get an idea of what they're talking about. One of the things that they structure it kind of interesting because they say basically, what do we want? It goes from introduction, what is the American strategy, and it highlights 2 things: what do we want, and how are we going to get it? Right? What should we want, and how are we actually going to do that thing? And one of the things they mention in the what we want I'll just read this out. What do we want from the
Mhm.
world? Yeah. Okay. I'll just read these out. What do we want in and from the world? This is point 2 in that section. Achieving these goals require marshaling every resource of our national power, yet the strategy's focus is foreign policy. What is America's core foreign policy interests? What do we want in and from the world? We want to ensure that the Western Hemisphere remains reasonably stable and well-governed enough to prevent and discourage mass migration to the United States. We want a hemisphere whose governments cooperate with us against narco-terrorists, cartels, and other transnational criminal organizations. We want a hemisphere that remains free of hostile foreign incursion or ownership of key assets and supports critical supply chains. We want to ensure our continued access to key strategic locations. In other words, we will assert and enforce a Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. We want to halt and reverse the ongoing damage that foreign actors inflict on the American economy while keeping the Indo-Pacific free and open, preserving freedom of navigation in all crucial sea lanes.
Hold on right there. What sea line? What is the South China Sea crisscrossed with American cargo ships carrying American-made goods to the far corners of the globe, and the Chinese are going to disrupt it? I mean, whose cargo ships sail through there? Who's going to close down the sea lanes? Not the Chinese, us. I mean, that's completely backwards. That's their complete reversal of what the truth is, and the people who wrote it know that.
Well, the other big question then too is is Singapore part of the Chinese sphere or American sphere? Is it international? Is it a special zone?
But back up. Does China have a sphere at all? If so, where is it?
Okay, reliable supply chains and access to critical materials. We want to support our allies. I'm just reading down here. I don't think this is the part where it mentions DEI. Maybe that's more.
I think that's further up.
Further up. Anyways, they do mention.
Maybe it's down when they get to Europe. They rake the Europeans over the coals deservedly for that kind of nonsense.
Yeah, they do mention DEI and getting rid of DEI and essentially race-based hiring policies and all the rest of this. That's killing innovation, right? Which is, I think, was the whole point. The whole point of DEI was to basically control, basically be a massive gatekeep on corporate businesses and be able to say, basically be able to highlight, you get to succeed and you don't, right? We like you and we don't like you. If you get out of line, if you get too big for your britches, right? We'll just destroy your investment score, and all of a sudden you cease to exist, right? It's like what really highlighted it, weirdly enough, was the Bud Light. Remember the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light scandal? And during that, it was.
I wish I could forget it.
Right. Well, what got highlighted in that? So there's DEI, right? Everyone knows what DEI. People are aware of DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. There's also a subset of that called your ESG score, and Tommy Salmons did a lot of good work on this, right? Which is what is it? Equitable social governance, I believe, score. But when you get into businesses, they actually have a different investment score, right? And I forget the exact acronym for this. It's kind of tied to ESG, and it basically just means that depending on your score, it ranks you in terms of what's a good investment. So so your monetary investments, your rates of increase, the health and wealth of your company, which is usually what people judge this on, was no longer the judge. Right. It was judged on how many boxes you're ticking. Are you getting a high enough ESG, DEI, basically a social credit score for corporations. And that was the metric of which people got people would do investment on. Right. So the Dylan Mulvaney trans spokesmanship for Bud Light, that was supposed to increase their overall, let's call it the ESG score, right? Well, unfortunately, when that happened and it blew up, their response to it, I forget the exact response, but their response to it angered the ESG crowd, and in their numbers actually went down. Because they didn't respond. They didn't say the magic words. I don't know, right? Who knows with this crap? But so they actually did more damage to themselves, not even just by having Dylan Mulvaney there, but their response to the scandal hurt them. It was weird. And then when you saw all that stuff, you're like, this is the big game. This is the big game that they were trying to play, and that's what's being carved, is being removed. And you know what? I have a very dry eyes about that. Because it's just insulting. It's so stupid. It's insulting.
Is that why you can't find an ad with a white person in it?
Right. Well, no, you can. It's usually white women who are with
Oh
black
yeah,
men.
yeah, that's true. That's acceptable, I suppose. You're right. Maybe a white
Yeah.
couple then. You can't have that. I think you're right. I don't think it's just for the purpose of control. In other words, I obviously they want control, but I think it's control toward a certain end. I mean, I think there is this internalization of this, victim and oppressor mentality that says,
Mhm.
whole host of things: white, male, Christian, heterosexual, blah blah blah. Go down the list. Those are bad. Those are bad people. And the reason for the control is so you target the bad people and promote the good people. And that's how we judge you. And by the way, that's not the only thing that score. I think it also takes into account your carbon footprint, your
Oh yeah,
environmental
the whole thing.
nonsense, all that.
Yeah, the whole thing.
It's like every building, any major firm is in, it's got to be, what is it, LEED now? It's got to be LEED certified to be environmentally friendly. Back when I was still with a couple of different large law firms in DC as a evil Washington lobbyist, they were just starting this stuff where, for example, major corporations do not hire legal counsel anymore, legal firms based on whether they think you can win for us or not, but based on your hiring practices. Do you have a certain number of minority people, certain number of women, certain number of LGBT people, stuff like that? Can they win our case? Well, I hope so, but that's not our main concern when we hire a law firm. You think at some point that becomes a self-correcting thing when you lose a lot, because you don't have competent people working for you, but that's where the thing is going. And by the way, it's not just a problem with the Europeans, of course. It's huge here too. And I don't know that Trump again, they can rhetorically put this in a national security document, but how that's going to affect all the stuff you're talking about. I think there has been some slight shift of the Overton window back in the direction of normalcy, but I don't think it shifted that much.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think with these kind of things, even small shifts are seismic, right? I don't think these things are going to get corrected overnight, because corporations and all these other places, like especially when it's embedded into massive systems, the course correction takes a long time, right? Like, let's just take Hollywood.
Yeah,
if they slated movies out,
wait, hang on a second though, before you go there. Course correction taking a long time, that presumes that shift, slow, small but steady, continues. And I don't think it'll continue. Right, I think it'll shift slightly and maybe install for a little bit, maybe even go a little further. But at some point, when the winds shift again, and it probably will in the next election, it'll start going the other direction again. In other words, it won't be any real, let's say, sustained correction. I don't think.
The pushback I would have on that, Jim, is only because it's like Gen X is now coming into power, right? Like a lot of Gen X personalities, right? Mostly from the tech sector, but I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of them in politics. We see some of them, right? But like they're more of the yuppie kind of Gen Xers. I think we're going to start seeing full throttle Gen X iconoclasts coming into power, and Gen Z and Gen X are very paired, right? They're bookends. Gen Z is like a younger, much more nihilistic version of Gen X, which hard to believe, right? When they start to get in there, and this is the cue to the Vengeful Sun predictions and the spirit of that age, they're going to start tearing things apart. They want to tear things down. Peter Thiel and all the rest of them, like if you read the thorough line behind a lot of their work, it's a lot of it is like, we're going to rip this apart, right? We're going to rejigger the whole damn thing. We're upset with it. We're resentful towards it. This thing is stupid. We're going to change it. And I think DEI and all the rest of it is going to be a massive thing that they're going to unplug. One of the major reasons I think this is true, and this is not some sort of like ethical blah, blah, blah thing. It comes down to data, right? It's like, Elon Musk is using X to generate data for his AI systems. YouTube was being used for Google, right? So all these major platforms are just using these using content to power their AIs for whatever the hell thing they're going to do with it, right? What I've started seeing over the last year is there seems to be two systems. The Europeans wanted sort of synthetic data, right? If data is a new oil, they wanted the synthetic, very hyper-controlled, very narrow lane. You can only say these things, right? Whereas Elon Musk, and I think his whole crowd who are winning right now, want the raw stuff. They want completely raw, unfiltered data that they can use in any way, shape, or form, which makes sense when you think that what Elon Musk really wants to do is build driverless cars out of his AI. So he I think, for whatever alchemical magic he's doing with this data, and don't at me, I don't know how this stuff works really, but it seems like he's more interested in that raw data to power his toys that he's most interested in, and he's not interested in synthetic. He's interested in like, let's do it's free speech, air quotes, right? He wants as much unfiltered data as possible, or that's allowable. So that side seems to be winning, and I think that's the side that's going to go. DEI's got to go because it's screwing with our data. We don't want that data. We want this other stuff, right? And I think they're winning out.
Well, color me skeptical, and the reason I think that they're not winning is I think that they still represent a minority of the landscape in the corporate world. They may be riding somewhat high right now because they have a sympathetic ear at the White House, although I really wonder where all that goes anyway with Palantir and so forth. But the other thing you say it's all about data, but I think it's ultimately about personnel. And I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is the growing divergence between males and females. And that as in other words, I don't know to what extent DEI locks in a lot of aspiring left-wing, basically emotionally and spiritually sick females in positions of authority that will keep any kind of shift from happening back to normalcy. And then you talk about the vengeful son, these young men and so forth. Yeah, you know what they call those guys? Jobless losers. People who can't get a job, they're not going to get promoted into corporate power, and they're never going to have, and probably not going to get married and have kids either. So I think that at some point the human dysfunction trumps data, but we'll see. Maybe you're right. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong. I usually hope I'm wrong.
Well, the other thing too is like the thing that I'm laying out isn't like hope. I mean, I don't want black pill, but it's like it's not like that. It's necessarily hopeful. It's just that I see these shifts happening in both narrative and like in the general, let's call it vibosphere, right? And that's it's palpable. Like the Nick Fuentes becoming a household name now is not by accident. That's produced, and there's a reason they're producing it. There's a reason, and at first I thought they're going to hold him up as a scapegoat, and now I think they're actually going Avatar. They're going to make this kid a social touchstone for a whole entire generation of young men, for whatever reason. Right?
Exactly.
And
to what end? And that's my question.
Right, and we'll be around. We'll see. So that's the thing about us old guys. We're patient.
Well,
let's get to
how long will it take? We might not be around anyway.
It's later than you think, Jim. You never know.
I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere too. Yeah. Let's get to this hub report that you shared, because this is Canada getting all
Canada.
Getting all very, very worried about things. Because, hang on a second here, because this strategic plan seems to be cutting out Canada's sovereignty, because now Canada's being named, as you mentioned, as part of the American hemisphere, of the American sphere of influence. And Canada's like, whoa, what is this? Why are we in the sphere? Hey, back off, buddy. We don't like your spheres, eh? We're more flat earthers now. This is from the Hub. I don't know who these people are. Hub co-founder Rudyard Griffiths spoke with Janice Gross-Stein, a leading expert on international relations and founding director of the Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy, that brilliant think tank at the University of Toronto, to better understand the document's significance and what it means for Canada. Here are 5 key takeaways from the conversation. Number one, this is not a typical national security strategy, unlike previous administrations' carefully crafted documents written by committees of senior bureaucrats. This strategy is short, dramatic, and reads as though it was written by a small group speaking bluntly about their worldview. Yeah. You know, I already liked it. They don't have to keep selling it to me. I'm already on board. Number 2, the Trump colliery expands the Monroe Doctrine to include Canada. Well, the original 1823, that's the day I was looking for. Monroe Doctrine warned European powers that Latin America fell within the United States' sphere of influence.
Of course, because Canada was already British, so existing colonies were not under the rubric.
And a little bit of French, and a little bit of French.
No, not in 19.
C'est pas obligé les Français there, Jim.
The two little islands. That's right. Saint-Pierre and Miquelon French, but everything else.
Hey, doucement, débutant. Okay, relax. The new strategy explicitly extends America's claims across the entire northwestern hemisphere, including Canada. Well, yeah, duh. It's the Arctic, dude. That global warming is not going to go on.
51st state. Come on,
please. The phrase did they mention? You've read the entire PDF. Did they mention the Caribbean at all? I mean, obviously Venezuela, Cuba, kind of Caribbean, but what about Jamaica, Barbados, all the Epstein Islands out there? Like, where whose sphere does that fall under?
I don't know. Africa,
maybe. Well, Africa's not mentioned. There's only 3 bullies. At this
time. There's a whole section on Africa at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice that they included.
Yeah. I think we're having another scramble for Africa, like in the 1880s.
Oh, good. Well, it's I liked Heart of Darkness. The phrase wording around no foreign assets could have chilling implications. And this is an interesting part of the PDF, actually. The strategy's language about prohibiting foreign ownership of key assets in the hemisphere raises questions about everything from European co-production agreements to technology stocks in Canada. Yeah, basically BTF the fucko.
Well, that is the question, because isn't one of Trump's big pushes to get more foreign investment in the United States so they can invest, but they can't own anything?
Right.
How's that work?
It just does.
It's minority shares.
You know what? Honestly, though, okay, let's play with this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
America exports markets. This is something that Matthew Eric and I have talked about. America's number one export is markets themselves, the concepts of markets. America has the deepest markets, and no one else competes with them, right? In terms of, like, I'll give you an example. Like to use. Everyone has a movie industry, right? Bollywood, people have movie industries, but there's Hollywood, and I know Hollywood's Hollywood's having some bad times recently, but America can revitalize that pretty easily, I think. And Hollywood, that's a deep market. That is the movie industry. Without Hollywood, without American movies, everyone would have movies, but like Hong Kong has movies. I like watching them. No one else really pays attention, right? So I think that's what does that. America exports the concept of the market itself, whatever the market is. And because it's so deep, people want access to America's markets. If they don't have access, it's just like a journalist, right? Journalists are going to say really nice things about you, so they maintain access. So if there's a news story from the royal family or something like that, they can report on it and get an interview. And if they can't, they get locked out, that's it. Like, no more story for you, right? So.
Before you leave that, though, I mean, we can export markets as you describe them. But for example, let's take movies. You can't eat a movie. You can't drive a movie. You can't fight a war with a movie. In other words, it doesn't produce any actual wealth, so to speak, does it?
Right, but I think we're past that point now. Here's the interesting thing, right? So part of the Klaus Schwab model was about stakeholder was it called stakeholder capital. So basically the idea that, and this was kind of, I think, the point of getting these corporations on board and in line, is that it was going to be an investment economy, right? Which it already kind of was informally, unofficially, but it was going to move to a more formal state where basically you're going to get owned, right? And whoever owns you. It's all going to be investments, and that's how they're going to keep this thing going for as long as they can. That is changing now. I still think it's going to be some sort of stakeholder, but it's going to be run by the state. So it's like a state stakeholder economy rather than just independent corporations, oligarch situation thing. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, we'll see how it plays out. But that seems to be shifting as well. Foreign assets. Number 4, Canada's Arctic sovereignty is directly challenged. This is why they want Canada. The document's insistence on preserving freedom of navigation in all crucial sea lanes, which again goes to your point, represents a deliberate assertion that places like the Northwest Passage are an international waterway, not Canadian internal waters, using language similar to Trump's rhetoric about the Panama Canal. Well, yeah.
Well,
And number
I
five,
think
yeah,
I think the Inuit are having none of it.
okay. What are they going to do?
They're having none of it.
Throw a bone
Yeah.
statue at someone? Like, what are you going to do?
I don't know. Is that actually? I don't recall that's actually in the document. Are they extrapolating from what's in the document?
I didn't see that directly, but I mean, I think they did talk about it. So
I'll have to go back. I don't recall that. Maybe I skipped over that.
I don't know if they mentioned the Arctic
Northwest Passage. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they mentioned like anything directly in terms of what they're going to do with it. But I mean, this has been part of a part of a sticking point between America and Russia for a while now, right? Russia and Exxon, before the Russia-Ukraine thing broke out, were set to sign some like multi-generational, whatever, 20, 30-year deal worth just billions and trillions and infinity money doing Arctic Passage oil deals. And that, of course, fell apart because of the war. And so, one of the big supporters of Trump and one of the big moneyed interests behind Trump is Texas oil, and that usually it goes completely. No one talks about that, but it's also why Alberta was one of the first Canadian provinces who were like, "Yeah, we like Trump. We want to be with Trump because that's Texas oil. That's the Alberta Texas oil connection are like they're friends, right? It's the same people, just different branches. So suddenly." Maybe that's why, hey, we need to get this peace process on because we want to start drilling, man. It's all about getting that oil, getting those laneways opened up, and getting that energy out, and sharing. And maybe this actually maybe is the peace prize before Russia and America. Maybe, right? As he offered.
By the way, I just took a quick look at the document. I don't see anything in there about the Northwest Passage. There's only one reference to Canada. I think they're just sort of. I think they're just hyperventilating up there.
I'm shocked that someone from the Monk School of International Affairs would make stuff up, Jim. Come on.
Said the school of the Monk.
They are such honest engines. Come on now.
Yeah.
Number 5. This is where.
This honest engines. Honest. What are they called up there? Original
First Nations.
First Nations. That's right. Yeah, honest First Nations.
Yeah. Interesting thing about that. I don't know if you saw this report. I don't have it. I don't think I have it saved, but someone did a Grok AI search on Indigenous First Nations corruption in Canada.
Oh.
Woo!
Out the wazoo, huh?
It was a thread. It was multi-pages long. It was a very interesting read. Number 5. We're entering a 3-bully world.
3-bully world.
This is what the good nice people at Hub and Monk are saying. The strategy envisions a return to 19th century spheres of influence with the United States, China, and Russia, each dominating their respective regions, while smaller nations become mere rule takers.
Nothing of the sort.
Quote.
Nothing. There may be mere rule takers implied with the Western Hemisphere and American power, but there's nothing conceded to any other power in terms of a sphere of influence, and certainly not that suggesting that anybody in their spheres have to be rule takers of any power other than the United States. It's simply not in there.
Right. Well, I mean, this brings us to this again. We've kind of touched on this, right?
By the way, if the Indians in Canada are First Nations, what are the French? Second nation? Who's the third nation then? Is that the English then? How does that work? And how about all the people that came later? Like 4th, 5th, 6th? You guys have numbers for anybody else?
Oh, hey man, I'm old enough to remember when they were just, Indians, Eskimos.
I know, but I think they became like. I think they have a claim to be the second nation, don't they?
Technically, because I mean, it was Cabot. Oh, it was kind of shared, right? But it was like Cabot and what's the French guy's name who portaged across New Brunswick, or what would later become New Brunswick into Quebec,
portage is a soup.
Out of Montreal. No, it's yes, it's a soup you eat in a canoe.
No, there's a potage. Potage, that's a soup. Yeah. Portage is something else, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like the old joke, and forgive me, I'm going to have to swear here. Drinking American beer is like having sex in a canoe,
I know.
fucking close to water.
Water, yes. I just heard it was Coors Light.
Right. Well, anyway, I still like Pabst Blue Ribbon because I watch Blue Velvet a lot, and I still a fan of that beer. So here's the interesting. There's a few notable things out of this whole
Right.
three bully system, right? Some notable names left out. India. We don't hear about India. We don't hear about Saudi Arabia. You
Mhm.
think Saudi Arabia would get mentioned, and so we certainly don't get mentioned. We don't hear anything about Israel. Huh.
There's very little about Israel in here.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm. I mean,
Maybe there's a
standard stuff about the Abraham Accords. We're going to have a lot of investment in the region. It's no longer be a region of conflict. Iran is still the big troublemaker in the region, blah, blah, but that's solved. Trump solved that along with his 18 other wars or whatever it is.
Sure.
They're just sort of skating past that one.
The Gaza golf course is going to be amazing. So, but we're talking about three. We're breaking the world into a multipolar world, right? This is a Dugin point. This is a Putin point. Okay, right. Fine. We're going to re-entrench. We're going to spend the next 50 years or whatever into the next century, entrenchment. Everyone, what's the Russian sphere of influence? Who knows? Maybe Turkey. We know the predictions. China gets Taiwan officially now. I don't know.
China,
sure.
Taiwan is China. And by the way, and that's another marker laid down in this thing about China don't get Taiwan, even though Taiwan is China. That's again, right. We're still staking our claim to everything right up to China shores.
Right. I think the only reason to get excited about this PDF is sort of a declaration for domestic policy, and I still think this is Trump and his group's strength, right? I know everyone likes to crap on this and that and the other thing. I think a lot of it's unreasonable because it's like, what you think he's going to deport X million of people in a year? Are you out of your mind? No, right? If anything, if in 4 years he gets, I don't know, 4 or 5 million confirmed, that's a major thing, right? It's like it's huge. But for whatever goal. Thank you, witnesses. Thank you, folks, for sending in your super chats, by the way. Like, subscribe, and share. And it's also, of course, send over on Streamlabs. Every little bit helps. I appreciate you. I don't do the goals really on YouTube anymore. I find them just distracting and stupid. So it's up to you. I put it out to the audience. If you think it's value, it's a value for value show, folks. If you think I'm giving you value, give me some value back in exchange.
Where's the love?
Okay. So I was okay. Yeah, where's the love? Why the face? What? So okay, we'll play devil's advocate.
Yay!
Right? Yay! We'll play devil's advocate here. We break the world to a multipolar world. China, Russia, America. They each go their thing. It's great. It's amazing. Wonderful. Right? Okay. So what? India, Israel, Saudi Arabia. Just to name those three countries. What do they do? They're sitting around. They just, I don't know. They agree with things. I guess.
Well, if theoretically there is a series of influence scheme in this document, which there ain't, but if there were, it wouldn't necessarily mean that every square meter of the planet has to fit in somebody's sphere. You could have lots of areas that just ain't in anybody's sphere, or maybe more than one power says we have an interest there, but it's not exclusive. I mean, there's ways. Look, if we had a traditional balance of power, spheres of influence scheme of the sort that existed before 1914, those things are all manageable. I mean, for example, all this blather about keeping powers out of the Western Hemisphere. Oh, we don't want the Chinese, and we don't. That's the real reason we have to get rid of Maduro, because the Chinese are there, the Iranians there, this, that, and the other thing. If we were serious about a spheres of influence scheme, and we said, okay, fine, sit down with the Russians and the Chinese, delineate the world where we ain't and where they ain't. How hard would it be to say to the Chinese, say, look, we don't want you doing X, Y, and Z in Venezuela, and you don't want us doing X, Y, and Z in the Western Pacific, in the South China Sea, in Taiwan, Japan, Korea, whatever it is. Here's the rules we both agree on about what you can do in my sphere and what you can't do, and what I can't do in your sphere and what I can do. and you have an agreement on it, and you have verification measures, and it's reciprocal. So the other side has an interest in doing it. In other words, you don't need to go bomb Venezuela to get the Chinese out. You can agree to the Chinese to pull out in exchange for our pulling out of their face in their region of the world. How hard is that? But we're not doing it.
Here's an interesting thing to throw in here. Okay, so AI, right? AI, this new generational everything. Okay, we'll call it AI. It's this new technology, technopolis, whatever they want to create. Iron domes, all that stuff. It comes down to power, energy. Sorry, right? Energy power. It requires insane amounts of energy to get any of this stuff done.
Yeah.
I think this is really why the European plan has finally hit the wall, going whatever full speed they can go, because I think the European plan really hinged on. I think they actually thought that solar and wind power and all this other stuff was going to work, that was going to produce all this energy for them to use to do their thing, because Europe doesn't have enough sources of energy. I know people go, well, what about Norway? What about this? Yeah, but no. Not compared to Russia, not compared to America. If America really wants to start drilling, they can be a massive energy producer, especially in Latin America. No, Venezuela, right? It's just discovered is the world's greatest reservoir of oil, right? Okay. And Canada, especially hydropower. So if really what the delineation here is coming down to is that, okay, Russia and America, energy sectors of the world, right? Undeniable.
Okay.
China, maybe not so much of an energy exporter; it's more of an importer, but a massive exporter of rare minerals that they need to make a lot of these supercomputers and all this other stuff.
Right.
Interesting thing. U.S. has just signed a deal to start exporting some of these new high-end, super duper space age chips over to China. Which they always said that China's a big competitor. Oh my God, their AI is going to, and so, but they're sending them like massively super cool chips over to China just recently. So it doesn't make sense, right?
Why?
Like narratively, I don't know. Right?
Well, maybe we're doing exchange for some of the minerals we need to build our weapons we need to use against China in 5 years.
Right. So, we're trying to make sense of the senseless. But okay, so. If we're saying that that's the agreement, right? So formally, it's this whole geopolitical Monroe, blah 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 blah. We all know is BS.
Yeah.
But behind it all is like we need to figure out how to create an energy consortium, right? We can't leave it to the Europeans because the Europeans are crazy and they need to go away for a little bit and sort their stuff out. And so okay, we're gonna deal between Russia, China, and America, who are massively developing weapons of mass destruction and drones. Like now, one news from the war front with Russia and Ukraine is that Russia's been just decimating Ukraine, hitting Kiev every night. They've been blacking out major cities for over 16 hours in a row using these new Geralt drones, I believe they're called.
Geralt. I think it means geranium. Geralt. No, really.
Oh, there you go. Really? Okay. They look like geraniums. But they're using Sidewinder missiles from the Cold War. They're arming them with Sidewinder missiles and just like decimating things. So maybe the agreement is this. Yeah.
Before you continue with Ukraine, I don't see why the Americans and the Russians and the Chinese would agree on energy. The Russians supply the Chinese energy. The Chinese supply whatever minerals that the Russians don't have, which probably isn't much because the Russians have a lot of minerals. What do they need the Americans for? And you left out the Middle East. I mean, how do you do world energy without the Middle East?
Well, maybe, and again, I'm speculating here, Jim, but maybe the agreement, right, for let's say we'll say 50 years, whatever, right?
Right.
Agreement would be America going, we're going to stop screwing with you. We promise. Really promise this time, Scout's honor, we're going to stop screwing with you for like 50 years. After that, game back on, right? But for 50 years, we got to deal with Latin America and Central America and all these other things.
How does America make a deal with anybody for 50 years? We can't make a deal for 5 years. We can't make a deal for 5 months.
Well, this is what we've been detailing on the show that no one likes to hear, but it's like, so what, right?
Yeah.
You signed this agreement.
I mean, pardon my impatience, Jason. I'm sounding like Tom here, but I mean, I guess I just don't understand the basis for what you're saying. You're sort of painting pictures in the clouds of, well, suppose the Americans wanted to propose to the Russians and Chinese A, B, and C. Wouldn't that make some sort of sense? And I guess I see two problems with it. A, I don't see where we actually add any value to the deal that the Russians and Chinese don't need us for anyway. And secondly, we won't keep the terms of any deal anyway. So what good is it? That's why I'm a little
Jim,
frustrated.
The reason why I'm throwing these things out there, I'm trying to think of all the potential straw man commentary. I haven't seen a lot of the reactions to this yet.
Okay.
I'm just like I know what the standard is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I know what people typically say in different spheres. So I'm just throwing out possibilities here because I want to kind of cover as many bases so we don't do 30 shows on this, right? Because I right now this is to me a nothing burger. It sounds really good. I like the whole introduction. I like the domestic policy stuff. I think that every single country in the world should adopt a similar stance of simply saying, "Hey, we need to start thinking about our own civilization again." That'd be good, right? I'm all down for that.
Yeah.
When it gets to into international waters, I just like there's a lot of questions here. I don't think that gets answered at all from what I've seen.
I agree.
And everyone else is making guesses. So I'm now just throwing out some like, okay, well, we know that this can't be true, right? Like, and Russia and China, I sincerely don't believe that okay, maybe Russia's stupid, but China isn't, or you have to have like basically three stooges, all three stooges getting together, doing this thing, it's silly. So if we agree that none of the three bullies mentioned here are going to just agree that this is how this is going to go down, what's really being discussed? Because there's got to be, I'm assuming, some sort of discussions in the back rooms, and it can't be this, right?
Yeah. I think so. I guess I'm skeptical even about those discussions. I mean, let's face it. What were Witkoff and Kushner talking about for those 5 hours with Putin? I'm sure they were spinning all sorts of tall tales about how American companies are going to come in and they're going to exploit the Arctic and they're going to come into Siberia and we're going to do oil stuff and this and we're all going to make lots and lots of money and everybody's going to be rich, and because again, that's the way these guys think. The same thing with Gaza. Oh, it's going to be a big enterprise zone. Everybody's going to make a lot of money. And they assume that the Russians will have dancing dollar signs in their eyes just like they do, and maybe they will, but I don't think so. But none of that stuff is going to happen. None of that stuff is going to happen because it would mean that the Russians would have to be dumb enough. And caveat: I don't think it's going to happen. It could, unless the Russians are really dumb. The Russians aren't going to give up on their strategic interests just because these two real estate guys, promise them a big bonanza on a bunch of deals. And the other one is the Russians don't need any of those corporations. They don't need the participation of American corporations. That we add really, again, where's the added value? Well, we have American technology and know-how and nobody else has. Maybe to some extent, but I don't think anybody where near as much as people make it out to be. And again, why, if you were the Russians, would you want to deal the Americans in unless they're trying to do a reverse of what we tried to do with the Soviet Union during the Cold War? We'll bind them up in a web of economic dependency, and that will moderate their behavior. Maybe they think we'll tie Gulliver down with a bunch of strings from the Lilliputians. Maybe they think that. But the other thing is, if you're an American corporation, if you're Exxon Mobil or whoever they are nowadays, and you say, okay, here's a deal in Siberia, the Russians want you to come participate in it, would you invest millions or tens of billions of dollars in that, knowing that any moment the next administration could cut you off at the knees and force you to pull out? I mean, maybe you would if you had got ironclad guarantees from the U.S. government that they would indemnify you against any losses of American regulatory decisions forced you to pull out. But I don't think that's going to be offered to them. And so I don't see why any American corporation would be dumb enough to get involved in this.
Well, look, because this isn't America in 1945. This is certainly not even America in 1980s, right?
No,
so the damage that the West has done to themselves, look at Britain, right? Who in the right mind would do any business with Britain right now at all? Like, unless you're forced to, like by whatever, like your continental Europe or something like that, you have to deal with them. If you're Russia or China or any international body, you're looking at the UK right now, going, we don't want none of that. We don't even know if you're going to have a freaking caliphate in charge of this country in the next 5-10 years. Are you out of your mind? Like, no.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So, and this is happening across Europe. We're seeing this happening in France. We're starting to see this happen in, even in Spain, right? So, if you're in that position, if you're a major civilization, Russia, China, are thinking civilizationally minded, in a civilization mode, you're not making any deals with these people because it's like you're in a state of flux. We have no idea if you're going to be around in 5 years, let alone what you're going to look like. Yeah. So, and you don't even know if a man's a woman, a woman's a man. What the hell's wrong with you?
That's something in this document I think is very valuable, where they say, Europe as we knew it may not be around 20 years from now, and they better get their act together. I mean, there better be a lot more Orbans and Fizos in Europe, pronto, or there ain't going to be no Europe to worry about. Now, people are saying, that he's declaring war on Europe. He's throwing Europe under the bus. He's pulling out of Europe. No, Europe's throwing itself under the bus. And what this is trying to do is, again, not walk away from Europe, not walk away from American hegemony, but try to blow some air back into that Europe and turn it into something instead of collapsing, so we can actually keep using it again for what? Against a barrier against Russia. I mean, it still comes back to the same scenario, except Europe is no longer useful for that purpose because it's being ruled by a bunch of idiots.
Harry over here says, talk about Poland. We'll do a whole show about Poland. The Polish situation is getting interesting.
We should get Mike Krupa on. Do you know him? Mike Krupa? Great guy. Great guy. We should get him on. Okay, well, let's talk about that later.
Sure. Because I mean, I think right now, from all the reports I'm reading out of it, is like they're basically setting up Poland to could be like Germany circa late 80s, early 90s, and we all know how that went. And that's now Poland's going to be basically the reports I'm reading is being set up to be the new buffer against Russia by themselves. The only problem is, and I make fun of the Poles being stupid. They're actually not stupid. Collectively, they know how to put in a light bulb or two. And I think the interesting thing about Poland is, if you go back to when I lived in Europe for a little bit in the early 2000s, I lived in did some time in London, and they weren't talking about the immigrants they were all peeved off about weren't the Irish or the global South, something like that. It was the Poles. The Poles were coming over in mass numbers and working under the table in many cases, and then going home but reinvesting the money back in Poland. And they were very, very stringent about that. Some stayed, most went back, right? And most reinvested their money into Poland. And that's why Poland freaking started excelling, because people would get trained up, come back to Poland. Right. Just kind of how this stuff should work. Right. In the ideal situation for immigration or cross-border immigration or that kind of thing is like, we're going from a depressed area. We're going to go to the wealthy nation. We're going to apply ourselves and work for crap and all that stuff and suck it up, but take whatever money we can and bring it back to the home country and redevelop the home country. That's how it should work. And Poland did it. And lo and behold, hey, it's working.
Right? Yeah, but they say Poland being the new Germany, I mean, like industrially, does that mean Poland's going to get a lot of cheap Russian energy? I don't think so. So without that, how does Poland become the new Germany industrially?
Well, I think maybe that was part of the Project Ukraine plan, right? Originally,
where's the energy going to come?
I don't know, man.
I don't
know. But this is it, Jim. I have no idea, right?
Like, Poles upset about all the Ukrainians up to their eyeballs. I mean, it's turned into, what is it? There's even a word for it, Polo-Ukraine or something like that. I don't think Poles want that.
No. If anything, they're like, we'll take Lvov because that's technically was ours anyways, a few of the border states. Sure. But I mean, I don't think Poland wants to expand and create a front line against Russia. I don't think that the Poles aren't, again, they have animosity and they don't want cultural animosity,
and they don't want 10 million Ukrainians living inside Poland's borders either.
No, not at all. Trust me, it's not a good marriage. But you're we'll end it with this, and we'll read some super chats, and we'll end it off here. But this is the big question that I think I for 2 hours before the show, I was like racking my brain. I'm like, this is how stupid this is that where's the power? Where's the energy coming from? Where are you finding this energy? Like, under a rock? Are you hoping just to strike oil off the coast of Warsaw? Like, where the heck are you talking about? Like, it's beyond stupid. So, okay, you shut down your nuclear facilities, which I think is a good idea, because like you're going to flood your country or your continent with low IQ global South people. Maybe don't have big giant bombs, right, floating around there. Then what? Where are you going to get it from? The sun? Half your country, half the European continent is cold and rainy all the time. Where are you going to get it from? Scotland? What the hell are you talking about?
Wait a minute. I think we cracked the code. We're going to invade Venezuela, steal all their oil, and send it to Poland.
Right. Genius. What did I think of that?
See, this is why we're not playing 8-dimensional chess like President Trump. He's got it all.
We're not part of the administration. I can tell you.
Exactly.
Quickly with some super chats. Thank you, folks, for sending these in. £5 from Mongo. Did you listen to the latest Tom Luongo, E.M. Burlingame, and Alex Trainer podcast? I have not. I have not listened to it. I will put it into the ever-growing list of things to listen to. $10 from Kenneth Wells. Thank you so much. Mongo again, member for 12 months. They're ready to eradicate 30 million of US 40%
of us.
Yeah.
Who's us? Who's us? Which us?
Of us, I'm assuming American. 30 million of you.
Well, you know, like I said, I think you know, the idea of a mass population reduction event is certainly not far from us, and there are many scenarios for that. I mean, I think we tend to sort of look at this, you know, things, you know, same old at some point. I think we're getting closer to some kind of a major shift. I just don't know what it looks like. Maybe Ukraine will be the trigger for it. So, or as you mentioned, all the stuff about these prophecies regarding Turkey and things like that. I mean, stuff's going to happen. I just don't know what it is.
Well, Candace Owens had a tweet recently saying that, you know, it's Candace Owens, so all the salt in the world. But she said that all signs point towards a major 9/11 style event happening the second week of December. Second week of December now, so we'll see. I think she was talking of this year, but you know, so we'll see. Honestly, I would not put it past them to do another, let's say, COVID or something like that, which would require mass lockdowns. If we go by the Davos plans that they published, then we should pretty much expect a cyber pandemic to happen, which, you know, online security things and all that stuff going around.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, if you're looking at the situation in Ukraine, you were starting on something there, and I interrupted you. The situation in Ukraine, the Europeans, this peace plan, Trump wants to be a winner. If I were the Europeans, or I were the guys in Kiev, or I were MI6, I'd be thinking hard about like a quote Russian attack on a U.S. asset. That would be good, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
That would sort of fit the doctor's bill.
Yep.
What were you saying about Ukraine? I interrupted you. Something was happening in Ukraine. It was in the context of this energy thing. America, Russia, China. Look what happened in Ukraine, and then I interrupted you.
It's gone. Sorry, Jim. I tried.
Sorry.
That's okay. $5 from Harry for whatever goal. $2 from Gorilla Biscuit, who was very generous yesterday. Thank you, Gorilla. I appreciate you. We need a goal. Well, just you set yourself your own goal. How about that? We value self-starters here over on Mirror and Chuck now. Then we get some gifted memberships from Gorilla Biscuit and from Harry. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone who's liking, subscribing, and supporting the show. Please add some comments. And if you're watching this in the future, there'll be links to send me money over on Streamlabs or on PayPal and all those nice places. So I appreciate that. Jim, any last words, any last thoughts? Of course, before you do that, go buy Jim's book. I try to warn you. $5 from Gorilla Biscuits. Fine. I know. Pulling it all on you, Gorilla. You're a big gorilla now. It's okay. You're a big Gorilla Biscuits, baby. So, anyways, Jim. Sorry. Any last thoughts on the?
Any last words? No, I don't have any last words. No, any last words? No, I don't think I have. I think I've sort of exhausted what was left in my brain today.
Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames, messieurs, brothers and sisters, comrades and other journeymen, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. I am Jason Marinchuk, and it's later than you think.